To say is this Wednesday call. This is our first Q&A call. We handle these on Wednesdays. The nice thing about these calls is they can be a little bit more one-on-one. So if you're somebody that has a little bit more specific need or just something that you've been wanting to ask, that maybe it's an obstacle you're up against yourself, or just something that you've wondered about, going towards goals and trying to accomplish things a little bit more in your life, this is your time. These Wednesday calls are perfect for more customized one-on-one stuff. The Monday calls obviously are me one to many, and that's more of the environment of the Monday calls. But these Wednesday calls, this is your opportunity to come out and ask questions. Obviously, you need to be a little bit more vulnerable to do that. But as I've said, this is a safe environment. We've got this private Facebook group page, and I am happy to get into those and give you as much information as I can. So whether it's a personal question you have, or maybe even something based on the training we had earlier in the week, this would be a great time to ask those. So with that, I wanted to go ahead and do a quick review of our Monday call. And then after this review, I'll open it up for any questions you may have, and we can go from there. I do have a few items that were mentioned in the introductions at the first of the program before we did the first training. So we can talk a little bit about those as well. But I'll open it up first to any live questions, and then we can fall back to those. So on Monday, just to give a quick overview, we talked about initially about mindset. Now, these things that I'll talk about on mindset are going to carry through for the whole program. And these are really important pillars that you need to understand as it comes to really improving ourselves in general. The first one was that this 80-20 rule. So we've got 80%, better not say it backwards here, 80% mindset, I guess I did have it right there, and 20% skill set. So this is something we talked about on Monday, that mindset is really critical. It's what keeps us when we hit obstacles, or we miss something on our route to getting a goal. We're going to forgive ourselves and get right back on the track. And the mindset is really, really tough. I always use the example of weight loss, that it seems like that's the one, like, oh, I'll start again tomorrow. And it's like this, you keep doing that over and over again. I'll start on Monday, and it constantly gets procrastinated and pushed out. And that's because the mindset's it's just not quite on board, and it's not strong enough to start right now immediately. And that carries forward for really any goals that we're looking to accomplish, as one example, right? But the mindset is extremely important. So knowing how to do something is 20% of it, and then the mindset to get us through it is the rest, is 80%. The other bullet on that topic is that the whole thoughts lead to our emotions, which lead to our actions, which lead to our results. Okay. Another, just knowing that equation. So ultimately what we learn here is that our results are an equation, and it starts with our thoughts. And that's why we discussed vision boards right out of the gates here, as we are using vision boards to train our visual, the things that come into us visually. We're utilizing that to influence our thoughts to be more in line with what it is that we're looking to get out of life. So what those goals are, what our ambitions are, what our those accomplishments that we would like to have in our life. We visually imprint those on our mind over and over again, every morning and evening, 3 minutes, and then whenever else throughout the day. And that's training our thoughts to get in line with where we want to be ultimately. But it does start with the thoughts. So we work it, and then as our mind gets on board, our emotions, actions, and results follow that seed, if you will, of a thought. So pretty fun. So just by a quick, maybe just chiming in over there on the chat box for those of you that are on live, who has a vision board or started a vision board, has something up at this point in time? So maybe you had one prior to the class starting, or since Monday you've put something up. Maybe just a quick chat over there. Let us know sort of where you're at with your vision board. And again, just as a reminder, for those that are either live or watching the recording, the activity that I've suggested and recommended for you for this week is that by Friday, you get a vision board up either on your wall in your bedroom or maybe your bathroom or somewhere you're going to see that on a daily basis, so that in the morning and the evening for 3 minutes you can work your vision board. Remember, working those senses in there as if you have already accomplished those goals that you have there. And as you do that and put yourself as already having them, you're breaking through and really helping your mind get on board that that's something that's going to happen. So sounds like we've got people chiming in saying they're working on it, which is awesome. So keep going. Keep working on those vision boards. I'd love to have you guys chime in as you get those put together and sort of finalize on what you're going to get on there and get them up on the board. Chime in on our Facebook page. Let everyone know sort of what you're learning, what you're shooting to do, and some of the wins that you start to have as we go through the program a little bit. So that's just a quick little overview of what we covered on Monday. Let's go ahead and jump in now to our Q&A. Anyone that's on live, if you have a question that you'd like to lob out there, please feel free at this time to go ahead and throw it in the chat section of our video conference here. I'll give everyone just a minute to think about that and write those in if you do have something. Go ahead and lob those in now. Okay, and while those are coming in, maybe I'll go ahead and start with one from our introductions that everyone put in as we started the program, or many people did. Just some of the things that they introduced themselves and then sort of told us what they're hoping to get out of this program. And within those are some of the underlying things that they're looking to do to get even further along their path, maybe give themselves a better chance of hitting their goals. So I wanted to tackle, there's a few things that were in there. So let me just hit one here, and then we did have a question come in here, so I'll grab that right after we talk about this one for a moment. But the first word that I heard a couple times, and this is a very common one, having done this for a little while now, the comment of being overwhelmed. So when we hear someone is overwhelmed, what I visualize as a mentor is someone, this is our person here. If somebody is overwhelmed, what I envision is they're standing in a jar or a glass. And what has happened is they have emotions and experiences, and I really key in on this emotions though, that have filled up this glass that they're standing in here to the point where it is literally up over their head. So what happens is we have experiences that include emotions in our life. And by the way, this goes all the way back to the point where we were, born and very young here, is we have experiences, and those experiences include emotions that we feel. Now, if we have an experience that never, it never resolved itself, and it maybe was left open, and specifically in this case, where we're talking about being overwhelmed, if it was a negative experience where there was an emotion, and in some cases very strong emotions attached to that experience, that does not go away. A lot of people think, oh, the experience was done and over with, and it just sort of ended and it's done and it's over with. That doesn't happen. What actually happens is that emotion gets scrunched down in deep within ourselves, and more of those pile on until it gets to the point where we feel overwhelmed. And the reason we feel overwhelmed is we literally cannot take on any more, because we're full. We're completely full of these emotions. So this is why I chose one of the weeks. I apologize, I don't have my list here of the different weeks we're doing the different trainings, but one of them is on emotional management. And I'm going to teach you some techniques of how we actually go about starting to release some of these old experiences and the emotions that are tied to them. So we go from being overwhelmed and we start to free up space so that we're actually ready and wanting to start taking more on again. So we want to release the negative, and then that frees us up to then take on the positive. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're going to want to pay very close attention. We're going to go into a ton of detail on being overwhelmed, as well as a lot of associated emotions that are the reason behind the fact that we want to release those negative emotions. Now, if you think about I always just think about movies that you see, right? You see the psychiatrist in the office, and the person comes in that's having a difficult time in life, and they lay on the couch, with their feet down there at the end, and the psychiatrist is sitting there, in their chair and just talking. And really what's going on is the individual that's struggling is just blurting out all this stuff, right? And they go back, usually what you see is it's something tied to their childhood, right? How they were brought up or something from their childhood. And they're talking through it. And that is one technique you can see very clearly from that situation of a psychiatrist or psychologist, psychiatrist, right? Psychiatrist, I get those mixed up. And the patient is talking through these, and that emotion is being released. And psychiatrists are trained to know how to deal with that and be able to be around that. But typically what happens is the individual that is talking about this stuff starts to feel better in a lot of cases. They're working through it so that they actually close the circle or close the experience and are able to release that negative emotion, and it frees up just a little bit of space. And if it's a really traumatic thing, it could free up a lot of space. But the funny thing about this is we just think, oh, it's over and done with. That was 15, 20 years ago, or 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago, I'm over it. It's still in there, and there's some ways that we can talk about, we will talk about, where we can release that. So that's a really, really good question. Very common, feeling overwhelmed. But that's what's happening, is that we have so much stuff built up within us over a time period of just packing it down, that we get to that point where we do feel overwhelmed. And what happens in those cases is we need to release some of that so that we're then we have a little room to take more in. We want to fill in with positive rather than that negative. So that's just a quick preview, if you will, a little answer, but a little preview into an upcoming training that we'll do on emotional management. So there you go. Now, we had one question come in here, and the question is it better on your vision board to do an end result or ways to get there? An example of weight loss versus exercise 4 days a week. Now, that's a great question. Thanks for throwing that in. So this is the way that I look at it. I really do think it is good to have an end result. And the reason that we want an end result is we want to train our brain to realize that end result, if we can do this long enough, our brain is going to get on board that is the end result that we want. We want to focus on that end result. Now, another thing that we're going to be talking about in a separate training that's upcoming in our 6-week program is one called action steps or baby steps. Some of you may remember that movie called What About Bob? It had Bill Murray in it. He was sort of the main guy, and he was the real ADD? No, not A. Is it ADD or OCD? OCD. Sorry, I'm getting all my medical terms mixed up here tonight. He's OCD, and he's just germaphobe and all these different things. And he's working with his psychiatrist, sort of working through these things and getting to the point where he can actually go out in the world and not be freaked out about everything going on around him, that he's going to die and all these things. But the psychiatrist, how he sort of gets him through it is he teaches him baby steps to the elevator. And so it's just sort of this ongoing thing throughout the whole movie that he's sort of baby stepping his way, and those little baby steps added together get him to the end result. So one of the trainings that we're going to have in upcoming weeks is talking about how do we have an end result in mind, and that's what we're focusing on. But then we do have what are called actions, daily action steps or daily baby steps that we will put in place that make sure that we're progressing towards that end result. So while I recommend that we have the end result sort of what we're focusing our brain on, our thoughts on, and getting our subconscious keyed into, we absolutely will have sort of the tactics, right, of how do we actually get there outside of just sort of putting it out there in the universe that we want to get that end result. And we do want to take some very specific action steps. So that's a wonderful question. Now, could you visualize have the steps towards your end result as your vision board item? Absolutely. You could definitely do that. In fact, I'll share with you the one that I did is with some of my scripture study. So getting a little spiritual here with you for just a moment. I wanted to read this volume of scripture, and there were 3 study guides that went along with it. And so what I've done on my vision board is I put the first study guide up as my vision board item. I completed that one. So then I put it up the second one. I've now completed that one, and I'm now working on the third one. So that was something that I did. So you can absolutely do that. I think it just depends on what works best for you. I think that I've always had in my mind the end goal is I want to complete this totally, right? So you know, with like a weight loss goal, maybe you say rather than saying, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds, right? Where that's obviously going to be a little bit more long-term thing. Maybe you say, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds. And the ability to get there a little quicker maybe is something that gets you excited until you get that ball rolling, and then you can actually see that you're going to get to that 50 pounds. So I said it's a couple different ways there, I guess, but the bottom line is you have a goal in mind, which I would suggest is on your vision board that you're visualizing each day, but we're also going to use these daily action steps combined with some accountability to someone that's going to make sure that we stay on that path. And these are the components, by the way, that separate people. We talked briefly in the first training that only 8% of people set and accomplish goals in the US. And the reason that's the case is because a lot of times we sort of have that goal in mind, but number one, we don't put it in a place where we can see it and study it every day. Number two, we aren't chunking it up in ways that we're able to take action. And number three, we don't have somebody that we're accountable to check in with and make sure that we are reporting back, because we let ourselves off the hook. Had a conversation with someone earlier today about the fact that, you know, if we don't have somebody we're accountable to, we let ourselves off the hook really easily. That we tend to sort of say, it's okay, I've been really busy and I'll get back after it tomorrow. And before long, we do that for several days, and then we've completely abandoned our goal, right? And we've retreated back to where we sort of started. But having these things, and then add to it the first item we talked about emotional management, and along the way of action steps, reporting to someone towards that goal, we're going to have times where we get a little overwhelmed. So we have tools where we can release the negative and bring in some more positive. And so we're going to weave, again, this 6-week program is going to be wonderful, because by the end, we're going to have all these things and they sort of fit together nicely in a puzzle, and you've got a full toolkit, if you will, to go after your goals. So great question lobbed out there on the end result versus the ways to get there. So yeah, I guess as I read it again, I might have misread that a little bit. So the question is it better on your vision board to do an end result or ways to get there? Okay, so good. That's a little different than what I said. So I think what it would be based on what we just talked about is the end result would be the thing I would put on my vision board. The ways to get there would be my daily action steps. And sort of how those break down, by the way, I'll just give you a quick little sneak peek here of that one. We'll draw a couple things up here on our board. Love the whiteboard. So let's say this is your vision board. So you'd have your, you know, your picture here, whatever that is, and then your one sentence description down below. You've got maybe your date here, so we'll put today's date, 3/7/18, and we're working that 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening. Now, there's going to be a lot of other steps that we cover, but specifically about the action steps, you're going to have a log here or a journal of, okay, here's my goal or my vision board item, right? The start date. And then you're going to have your days. And by the way, I've got a form here that I'm going to post to our Facebook page as we get closer to this that you can utilize or make your own. But it'll help you track this. You have day 1, 2 on down here. And I like to do them as 30 days, just so you have 30 days worth of action steps, depending on how, you know, some of these you can get done quicker than that. And then what you have is you have a description of each day what you're going to accomplish. And then as part of the accountability, did you do it or did you not do it? And we're going to actually bring in a person that you're accountable to, or people, or a team of people that you're accountable to. And you just actually track this, and you're going to make, you know, if you did it, maybe you missed one, did it. And so you're tracking your action steps. So this is how I recommend that we go about the question, which is have the item where we want to get on your vision board. Mine's going to get on board. And then this becomes the ways to get there, the tactics, if you will, and how we track it and utilize that. So didn't give you all of it there. I apologize. That's why we have 6 weeks to get into this in a lot more detail, but I do want to obviously give you some there so you can say, okay, yeah, I sort of get that. We'll get more in-depth training here in the upcoming weeks on some more of that. So hopefully that helped. And the nice thing is you lob these questions in, trust me, most everyone else is going to have that question as well in their mind. So I am confident it helps someone else as well. So thanks for your willingness to throw that question out there. All right. Well, let's hit one more here based on some of the stuff that we have. And obviously, if you're live, go ahead and throw anything else in that you may have. But let's go to another one that is another very good one that would seem maybe a little bit related. And I think in a way it is to the first one, which is being overwhelmed. But the second one here that I heard quite a bit in those intros was maybe having a lack of energy or a lack of drive. So when we have a situation where we're lacking drive or we're lacking energy, really what this comes down to, and this is a very, very common thing, I deal with this as well, I think most people do, really when we're lacking energy, what we need to do is self-care. Self-care. You're thinking, oh, that's sort of weird. And as a male, you know, we tend to, at least myself, I'll talk for myself as a male, I tend to discount self-care a little bit, thinking, well, that's, you know, self-care. I think you're like, I don't know, doing makeup in the morning. And I apologize, I'm not trying to be sexist at all, but that's, you know, if you think about those stereotypes, right, that's sort of where we go with that. Is self-care is typically something that males neglect or maybe don't even consider as much, and females do consider. But even in both, I guess the reason I'm saying this is both need to pay very close attention to this because it's important. So what do I mean by self-care, and how does this actually relate to lacking drive and energy? Well, what happens is if we're going too long and too hard towards just in life, towards goals, the things we're looking to accomplish, without taking care of ourselves, we start to break down, and we start to lose energy and drive because we're just, it's like there's no end in sight, right? Think of the visual of you're out on the beach and you're digging a hole. You've probably done this experience right before, where you get a shovel and you're digging out a hole in the beach, and before long, right, you start to get the water and things that's down below, right? And if you leave that hole there long enough, what happens is it starts to sort of fill back in. Like the sides come in, and before you know it, if you were to come back maybe the next day, that hole, would be probably filled back in, and it would just be a, smooth beach again. And it's similar to us. If we are constantly go, we're digging, and we're not taking the opportunity to fill ourselves back up with maybe something more positive, what happens is we just start to sort of implode on ourselves. We start to, that's at least to me, that's one of the visuals I have, is that we're being filled back in, but it's with weight that we don't want. It's not a motivating thing. It's something that's sort of like a wet blanket being put back on us, right? And it's all this effort, and then our effort just goes to waste because it just sort of buries back in on itself, right? And we lack that motivation. So the one way that I have found, and I have been trained with some of the information that I've gone out and gone through, and a lot of conferences and trainings that I've had, mentoring I've had, is we need to take better care of ourselves. Now, some of the things here that we can talk about, and then I'm definitely not going to hit all of them. And a lot of this, frankly, is a little personalized too. So, there was a, sorry, I'm just seeing some chats going on. I'm trying to pay attention to both here and make sure we're taking care of everyone. Yeah, a lot of this self-care list is very personalized. So some of the things that may work for me may not work for you. A lot of them I think does carry over. So I'm going to try to hit the ones that I think are fairly common, but just know that, your list can be altered just a hair here. So one that I think that I love, that I think most people do, is a massage. So, something about going in there, getting that deep tissue massage. I know sometimes it really hurts, but getting in there, getting the deep tissue, after it's said and done, it feels so good, right? It hurts so good. We say that with some of these massages, but man, it's such a great feeling to go in and get that massage. In fact, we've got an individual, Caleb, here that is a massage therapist, and I'm sure he could chime in and give us a lot more information there. But I think massage is just a tremendously good one. Another one, drinking lots of water. Probably goes without saying, that's a very important one, to make sure that we're taking care of our engine, taking care of our body, right? That's going to keep that drive and motivation up. Making sure that we're eating well. One that I love is stretching. Stretching just really helps, keep our body in good mobility and good shape, so that we're not, tensing up. And there's a lot of, that's really what causes the need for the massage, I guess, is just that we're not stretching, we're not hydrating our body well enough. Exercise. So you get the gist of where I'm going with this. Sort of next level stuff is, I know people will go and get their blood work done, and they'll get it done specifically for finding what vitamins and minerals their body is lacking. And then they will start to take supplements to make up for where they have some deficiencies. A lot of times, if you're lacking motivation and drive, it could, and you're maybe even doing most of these things, it could be that you're low in a certain area where it comes to minerals and vitamins. So a lot of times, you just want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you're going in and getting checkups with the doctor. And specifically, you can ask to have blood work done that will show where you have some deficiencies, and you can take supplements to help there as well. And that alone can make massive difference for the motivation that you have day in and day out. So that's where I'll sort of leave the self-care. I think you guys get where I'm going. Again, it's just things that, are taking care of ourselves. Maybe, and it could be things also that are like, buying yourself some clothes that make you feel good. That's self-care as well. Just the daily maintenance stuff that you just want to make sure that you're keeping up on, getting haircuts and things like that. Just those are things that help me feel good. When I get a fresh haircut, it just feels good, and I feel like I'm taking care of myself, and it does motivate me and drives me a little bit. So the other thing that I would recommend, excuse me, is to create a joy list. And my wife Holly and I have done this, and the two categories that we do this in are those that cost money and those that are free, that don't cost money. Okay. And we try to get like at least 10 items. I think we've gone well past that at this point, for each type of joy. So like, for example, stuff that costs money could be a massage. That could also be a free one too, right? Get your child to come stomp on your back or something, But no, having things on both ends that some that cost money, some that are free. Like the free one I love to just occasionally get in a dark room with a movie on and just sort of shut everything else off and just sort of relax and veg out, for the movie. If I do that every few days and recharge, that's something that is able to get my motivation level and my drive back up. But this joy list is a really fun exercise. So that's something you can try as well, is to make a list of these items here that could be the things. This is where I mentioned the very personalized pieces. What brings you joy? Like, really sit down and think, what are the things that if I go do this thing, I feel like $1 million. I feel a ton of joy come into my life, and document those and just put them in either a free or a cost money column. The reason you do that is obviously, sometimes you may have the extra money to go do something that's going to really make you feel happy, and you want to choose from that list. But also telling yourself, hey, it doesn't need to cost money for me to find joy in life. And what are those items that are free for me to go do? So makes sense. That's sort of an answer there to, if you're lacking drive or energy. A lot of times what it really comes down to is your self-care. You're just going too long, too hard without a break, and you need to be honest with yourself that, hey, you know what? I'm human. I need a little bit of a break, and let's pump the brakes here a little bit and do something that I enjoy, pay specific attention to my body. And as I do that, I get rejuvenated, and that drive and that motivation starts to come back a little bit. So that's what I'm going to go through today. If there's any other questions, feel free, as I'm wrapping up here, to lob them in. I'd be happy to answer anything else if there's somebody live that would like to get a last question in here. But again, these Q&A calls are a little bit more free form. There's not a real agenda to them other than, hey, let's just talk about what's on your mind. It's something from the training this week, or again, just a general topic like some of the ones that we covered here tonight, is really the purpose of this Wednesday call. So just a little bonus in the week aside from the training. So again, just to wrap up, the assignment, or hesitate to say assignment because I don't want it to be like, oh, you have to go do this. It's everything in this course is a suggestion. It's a recommendation. It's I encourage you to, but I guess the challenge that I have, the recommendation I have for you for this week, is to get your vision board up by Friday. So if you find yourself like lacking the actual cork board or something like that, just get something up on the wall. It doesn't even, it can be like one of my mentors, Kirk Duncan, says, go get some painter's tape, either that blue or green tape, you know what I'm talking about, right? And just make a box on your wall and slap a photo with a quick description below it, and you're done. You've got something up there, and then you can improve it from there. I know a lot of people are like, it doesn't match the decor of my bedroom. Well, at least you got it up there, and this is something super important. It's helping you get to your goals. So get it up there, and then you can always, upgrade over time. Like my wife Holly and I have. We started with the tape idea, and then we've now moved to the cork board. So there you go, everyone. I hope you got a little something out of the call tonight. Typically these, like I said, if somebody's experiencing it, typically more and more people within the team here are experiencing it as well. So I appreciate those that are willing to jump out and throw some things out here on the call and on the Facebook group page. So that's what I got for you tonight. We'll go ahead and cut it off at this point, and really appreciate everyone for being on, and then those of you that watch this later. And then feel free, if this conversation kicked up any other questions, just lob them into the Facebook page. I'll be checking that. You can also reply to my emails I've been sending out, or you can insert them here as I throw my marker on the chat section of our video, and we can get them any of those ways. So thanks so much, everyone, for being here and for participating. And I will go ahead and post this video up to the private Facebook page so you can, those that weren't able to make it can jump on and check it out. And we will be back in touch. So next thing on Friday, if everyone could chime in with how is your vision board coming along? Has there been any early successes? What are you learning? Let's have you post those on the Facebook page. And then next Monday will be training number 2. And the topic is declarations. This is a awesome companion to a vision board. And if not, this is declarations. Honestly, I think vision boards was one of the coolest, like the shiny tool that I learned that I love the most. But if I were to really net it out, declarations have probably been the most impactful thing that I see that's a change from when I started down this personal development road. Meaning just the words we tell ourselves, our inner dialogue, what we're saying to others, what we're verbally saying throughout the day, and how much that really matters. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive really deep into that on next Monday. So I'm excited for that one. Well, thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will be in touch shortly. Thanks so much.